Wow.
Here we are, back in the
Back
saddle.
in action.
Back
Honestly,
in the saddle.
this last 2 weeks has been crazy.
Yeah,
I am pooped out in my life.
Yeah, man.
It has been a wild week.
Yeah, it was my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Thank you.
belated.
Thank you.
Happy belated.
Thank you, my belation.
I was there. You got me so drunk. And I like
Not me.
No, you.
Me?
You got dude,
No
what
way.
are you saying? Me. Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
No way.
you.
Dude, you were drinking like you discovered alcohol for the first time.
Yes,
You were
it's
literally
a
yes,
fact.
bro.
Can't say
Yes.
Yeah,
I
bro.
can Kirsten
You
on
were
this.
you were just like, have you ever tried tequila? It's insane. Take a shot. Take another shot. You should mix it with this whiskey.
And you should have some wine with
Yeah,
that as
dude,
well.
you were
I
just
was
like-
I was like, whose birthday is it?
I know.
Is it mine or yours?
You got
She was saying that for the few days like after her birthday, and I was like, babe, I barely drank. What are you
no,
talking
dude,
about? What are
you
were
got
so
you got
lit.
me so hammered. And what's funny too is I haven't like hangovers hit so different these days. Like I remember my brother was telling me that once. He was just like, "Oh yeah, just wait till you get older. Like hangovers suck." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like I used to be able to just be hammered, wake up the next day and go right back into it fine. And then I think like 22 hit, like 22, 23 hit.
Oh yeah, so
and
old.
Well, I just like I know it's not old, but something changed. Something changed in me. And when I would get hungover, I felt it everywhere. Like it wasn't like this easy thing
Why is
to
my
Yo,
finger
forget about
twitching?
walking.
oh my god, it's like why is my finger twitching?
Your knees are hurting when you
know,
walk?
and then your body lies to you because for like the first 2 hours you're like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't feel that bad. And then
Yeah.
like 2 o'clock hits and you're like, if you talk to me, I will I will crush your throat. Like, dude, yeah, I haven't drank
So
that
wait,
much. in a
that really
minute.
hit, huh?
Yeah, dude.
Damn.
Well, I just came for like pizza and to show support and be
Thank
like
you.
happy birthday,
Yeah.
and then
I
then
showed support too. Thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
myself.
Yeah,
and
we
then
all did.
and then next thing I know, you're just like, yeah, just take one shot, dude. Just take one shot. Where are you going? It's like 10 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, you know, I'm probably strolling out of here. You're like, dude, stay till noon. Stay till midnight.
Stay till
Well, you probably wanted
Yeah.
me to stay till
Yeah.
noon. man.
Probably did, Jake.
I was
Yeah,
laughing
man.
because I told Kirsten, I was like, Jake's been trying to leave for like hours,
Dude,
and I keep
yeah.
going to Jake. I'm like, just one more hour.
I like
one
it-
more hour.
My typical go-to is the Irish goodbye, which I recommend for anyone as
You
you
just
get
leave.
older. You just leave.
You just leave.
I feel like we
Well, yeah, because
You're
if you
s-
start announcing that you're leaving, someone's gonna find
Yeah,
a
yeah,
reason
yeah.
to keep you there.
Well, and it's funny too because now, you know, obviously, in the different side of culture I'm experiencing now is like in Mexican culture, it's very much like you don't just leave.
No.
You don't just
Yeah.
leave everyone. You say bye
You say
to
bye to everybody,
everyone, and it's like
everybody.
yeah, and like leaving is its own event.
Yeah.
And so it started to, it's like interfered with how I do things because I'm very much
You're
like,
like, hold on.
just leave because I don't think there's been any time where I've ever left Irish goodbye and then someone's like, wow, you didn't say goodbye to me. And once you realize you have that power, it's you just start
Oh, yeah.
using it all the time
Yeah.
until I started
Yeah.
getting this relationship and it's like, no, you can't just leave. They'll just like look at you like, where are you going? What are
Yeah.
you
Well,
doing?"
it's
They'll-
funny-
Your
it's
eyes
funny
will be
'cause-
following you the whole time you leave the door.
The first few times I took her to Florida when
Oh,
we
yeah.
went out and did stuff like
Yeah.
this, it's like, all right, time to go. Time to go. I was like, all right, we gotta say bye to everybody.
Dude.
And she was like,
like, I
wait,
don't
she was
even
like,
know half of
why don't we
them.
just why don't we
Oh,
just
man,
leave?
It is such a mission, man.
No, you need to.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
disrespect. You have to learn like the culture of it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's another thing. It's interesting for relationships. Like,
Yeah.
kind of like how the pros and cons or the ways of traditional things that you like are used to, what makes
Yeah.
sense to you.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing, you know.
and also like
Yeah,
when you decide
it is.
when you decide to take on because I think when you're first getting a relationship, there's the honeymoon thing is completely real. The honeymoon phase is 100% real.
in the brain.
And yeah, it's 100% real. You just want to like be around them 24/7. There can be no wrong or whatever. And then once then you start actually talking about the values and figuring all that stuff out. And I think that's one of the most fundamental parts of creating a relationship with someone is actually realizing what you're willing to adapt into your lifestyle for them and what you're willing not to, or what you thought you'd be cool with until, you know, you're like, oh wait, actually, do I enjoy this? Like, is this actually something, you know what I mean?
Can I
And-
live with this
Yeah, no, seriously,
for the
seriously.
rest of my life?
So it's like, I mean, I think that's where the love comes from. It's like that joke of, you know, I don't like doing the dishes, but I'll do the dishes for you. Sort of, it's that same sort of
I want to
situation.
know one person that actually likes doing the dishes.
Oh God, I don't know. We've talked about this. I
Yeah,
still
that's-
till this day am like,
You
I
still,
don't think
you
anyone
still, do you
does.
still have one pan, or did you upgrade?
dude, I bought a new pan. That is
upgraded.
so
There
funny
you
you said
go.
that. Yes, I was at
Yeah.
Target a few days ago and I
Yeah.
bought a new pan. I bought one of those cast iron.
I'm
It's
proud
amazing.
of you. And a
Nice.
cast
Yeah,
iron.
dude,
There-
I feel pretty good. I honestly, I was just like, now I just need to get a knife set. That's the only thing.
That is important.
That's the only thing I'm
Yeah.
lacking right now. I changed my sponge. I should have changed it a long time ago.
Just go to the Trader Joe's ones and get the packet.
Dude, I know.
those
yeah,
are good.
yeah.
I
It's like
know.
a full thing of them.
Anyways,
Oh wait, okay. So I have a question.
Answer.
Okay, on the first few dates, do you split the bill? Do you cover the bill? Like, what's the in this day and age? What's the right way to go about that anymore? Like, what do you? I'm
Yeah.
curious. I wanna know.
Well, look, I feel. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong,
not gonna
but I mean, you can
correct
correct me if
you.
I'm
This is
wrong.
your
But
personal
so
opinion.
I think.
he looks at me for support.
He goes,
hey, what's the right
he's
answer?
like- he's
You
like,
can
I'm
tell
gonna
we've been
answer this real
married.
quick.
Yeah.
No. I'm gonna give my answer.
Uh-huh.
I feel if you're asking the person out on a date, and we've been together for like 9 years now.
Oh, interesting context. If you're
Yes,
creating the
So if
instigating
I
the
if
date.
I
Okay.
ask her out on a date,
Okay.
then I already know in my head I'm gonna be the one
Gotcha.
covering the bill,
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
Whether
Okay.
it was in the beginning of the relationship
Or
or
not.
9 years in.
Okay.
You know?
Gotcha.
But in our day and age, since we're 9 years in, there's times where
You guys are 9 years?
yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess.
we've
right?
been in each other's lives for 9 years.
Oh,
No,
okay.
7 years.
But we've been dating for like
Total?
7
Oh,
together.
well, in
Yeah.
your head, the minute you saw her, you guys are dating. So
Yeah.
he's like, yeah,
So
so,
that's like
12 years.
12 years.
yeah.
12 years together. Don't worry about it. We were dating. She was on stage. She didn't know. I
yeah,
existed.
yeah. He's like, no, I mean, well, if you think about it,
Check.
it's been like 15 years. And she's like, we started dating like
Check.
6 years ago.
Hold on. Where's my calculations? But go ahead, baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I was saying it's like us being 7-9 years in, we'll both take each other out on dates now. you
Oh,
know?
that's cute.
So for example, I ask her, I'd be the one covering the bill. Sometimes, when she asks me, then she would
It's like a
naturally be
treating,
covering
yeah,
the bill.
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like there has to be
Yeah.
that balance. I don't know. Like, I mean,
I feel like Kirsten and I, we work well together though. It's the same thing with
Well, I
like,
hope so.
let's
I
say
don't-
with
yeah.
like keeping the house, like our house in order. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, you handle this and I handle this. It's more like
It's a
we'll
team
just
thing.
handle it. If we see it and it hasn't been done yet, one of us will do it while the other one
Yeah.
does this. And that's just how we keep our house in order.
well, I mean, I think that's
know?
probably the healthiest way to go about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. If it's something like, well, I just did the dishes, well, I just took out the trash, it's like that's gonna drive you nuts. I don't think you could, like, I don't think that's sustainable
Yeah.
at all. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Well, it's also, it makes the person not want it if the partner's like, oh, it's time to take the trash out. You got to go do it. You got to go
Mhm.
get it done.
Well, I also think that's why, in general, like you guys are saying, like, I mean, 7 years, 15 years, I don't know who to
Whatever it is.
but I mean, I guess that's why it's super important. Like, dates are super important. I think that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn through previous relationships is I will 100% admit that, I didn't completely understand it, maybe because I wasn't around it growing up. Like, I didn't see it as much, in my parents' relationships and stuff. Like, I didn't see like flowers coming home and like
Mhm.
dates a lot and stuff. And obviously when you're working, you have kids, it's different, but I didn't realize how important that is to keep
Mm-hmm.
the love alive and how much I actually need it without thinking that I need it. Like, you don't,
Yeah.
it's, I like dates are just so important and
Yes.
going out, just going to the
Yeah.
movies or just going to get dinner, just something simple is so important. It doesn't always have to be this elaborate thing, but I don't know why. Well, I mean, I guess I know why. I didn't realize how important it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
and how much that can make or break a relationship. I mean, do you guys have a typical, like, we shouldn't go past, let's try to get one in at least, because I feel like you guys do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
But, like, you
not-
guys are pretty good at it, I feel like.
Well,
Actually, it's
okay,
like,
you
it's
can
like,
go.
Yeah.
you want me to go? Okay, bet.
Okay. You're gonna go anyways.
Bet.
Bet it's my turn.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like it's a 50-50,
Yeah.
we work so much
Right.
that we let sometimes life
Yeah,
just
yeah.
move on.
Naturally.
Yeah, to where we don't have a lot of time together. But I feel like we're both good at saying like, hey, like we haven't had time together.
We need to make sure.
We need to do this because we try to basically put like a date night at least once a week.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we know with both of our works that sometimes that may not happen.
Right.
But we still try to make it known once a week we do something,
Mhm.
whether it's an evening or a day, or even not even like sometimes a lunch because our evenings get packed, whatever it is.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's we try to keep ourselves accountable. Like if it goes on too long, we're like, okay, wait, what are we doing? Let's sit down, go through our schedules. Let's put a day or a time
It's like for
together,
us.
and that's in the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say too, like I think what happens is you lose sight of the priority in front
Right.
of you,
Yeah.
and it gets comfortable. So when people get comfortable, they get in routines, and when you get in routines, you go in passing, right? And so
Yeah.
dates, what they do is they push you to have to get out of the comfortability of your routine with that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
And so that's why when you plan something, it's like, even if it's just for 30 minutes, we're going to sit down and we're going to discuss questions we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's a date. It's
Oh
like,
God.
you know what I
Well,
mean?
it's not even. It's
But
not
like
even.
a good
No,
date,
no,
Yeah,
like
but
I
it's
not
understand.
bad things,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
but it's not necessarily things you don't want to talk about. It's more so things you maybe haven't spoke
Yeah.
about in a
Right.
while.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like just making it like, I guess again, prioritizing your person. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we had plans this weekend and we're really
Yeah,
busybodies.
literally.
Yeah.
And but
that
like
went out the window this
Yeah.
morning.
But-
That went out the-
but like
You're like,
it's
so no
hard.
Disneyland?
Yeah. So no Disneyland.
We're really not going to
Yeah,
Legoland?
like,
It's
hold
all
on,
That's
man.
fine.
But but then there's certain things that can't
Yeah.
be pushed, you know, like for our work because of the different industry that we work in. So it's
Right.
just knowing how to like navigate your partner and be like, hey, like I get that's super important, but we're super important. And like if that's really a cause for like conflict, then you choose your partner over your work.
Right.
And just knowing that, like, you know, me and Brandon are pretty good with like being what's the word?
What is the word?
Like compromising, like balancing?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
supportive
Like
of each
civil?
other's
No, supportive. Oh, supportive. Yeah, yeah.
of
yeah,
each
okay.
other's work and like our efforts. Like we're building our empires right now.
Right,
So
right.
you have to know where
Yeah.
you're at. Like when you have kids, it's even more important to have dates. Probably like
Right.
3 times a week.
Right.
That's a
right.
whole another story.
Yeah.
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 But-
Well, that's
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think, well, especially now, I think they're much more important. But I do think it's the same thing. I mean, it's especially, I think that's why the cusp of when you cross over that living together situation, like that's when it really becomes even harder, I feel like. But no, I agree. I didn't realize just how important they were, like I said, until this relationship, to where like I thoroughly enjoy them and I'm super glad we go on them, we have them, and at the same time, the one thing I didn't realize I'd enjoy so much is when you do buy like flowers for them, or when when you're coming home and you might have like a secret dinner plan, or when you cook dinner, or when you guys just like sit and eat a meal and watch TV. It's like that's actually really nice. I do understand what you're talking about. Like a date almost forces you. It's like I think the hard part, or where a lot of people fall off with the date stuff, or it's like, well, what are we gonna go talk about? I mean, that we wouldn't talk about right now, or what? It's like, and that's the thing. It's like you have to force yourself out of those habits, those rituals, because it's true. Because then, like the love does, it dampens, or it's like because it starts to fade a little bit because it's just routine, and when it's not this magic thing that it maybe was, it's like then you start comparing. You're like, well, then what's the point? Like, why would we do that? We can just do this here. It's like. And you got to push past that.
Yeah.
Because then when you're in the moment, you're like, oh, this is amazing. I don't know why I didn't think this would
Right. No,
be.
you always end up enjoying it. It's just actually putting yourself there. There's a couple times where you said, sitting down, watching something with your partner. I mean, we love that, but we almost do that
all the
a little
time,
too often
yeah,
in the evening.
yeah.
So there's times where it's like we'll have dinner and you've been to our house. We have the island and the couch, stuff like that. So we'll be like, you know what? Wait, let's just sit here. Let's like not watch something right now.
Yeah.
Because
let's just stare at the wall.
Yeah, like this.
If we watch something, it's great. We're having a great time.
Sure.
But we're not talking. We're eating and watching.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I never, ever in my whole life ever sat down and ate a meal while watching something
That's very, yeah.
until
So I
I
did my
got
whole life.
married.
That's what I did my
And
whole
Brandon's,
life.
that's what he does. As soon as he gets food, we turn on something. And I'm like, whoa.
Most likely The Walking Dead.
Yeah, most
Oh,
likely.
yes.
So like I'm sitting there and now I've
That just
gotten
finished,
into
too. It's
a
crazy.
routine that I'm changed my
Right.
habits. And so it's kind of like, oh, well, actually, I value not having something to distract us
Right.
because then I get to look you in the eyes, ask you how your day is. Or like even the thing is me and Brandon don't see each other most of the day. So
Yeah.
most our conversations are on the phone. And
Sure.
and Brandon's like,
Oof.
well, I actually want our conversations to be when you get home, but then we're so tired when we get home. So it's like
Right.
navigating how to
That's an obstacle.
build. I wouldn't say it's necessarily love because love actually is not a feeling. It's an active
Right,
pursual
right,
thing.
right,
And
right,
so
right.
I would say the curiosity of somebody or the I don't know, the passion of
Sure.
something, you know, or the knowing of something. I would say curiosity of getting to know somebody that lifts your endorphins in your brain and says, "Oh, I'm seen" or something. So having those moments are important. I think that like even just what you're saying, living together, you
Mhm.
get so used to the person just being there.
Right. Yeah.
You're just like, I take you for granted without taking you for granted. It's
Yeah,
not like you
right.
actually like want to take someone for granted, but
Right.
when you don't take the time to bring flowers or cook the dinner or say, hey, leave a note on the wall
Right.
or like,
right, right.
little special things that would make someone know that you're thinking about them.
Did you? Were there
I
any
agree.
like things in like I know this. I mean, this is what you learn from like relationships moving forward and stuff. But I remember there's some moments in past relationships where y- you didn't realize the patterns were bad. You know what I mean? It's like you're like, oh, and then you look back, you're like, oh my God, that was terrible. Like, no
Yeah.
wonder so many things fell apart. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like I think about that all the time because there's also when you become comfortable, there's a so everyone always says this thing, it's like, oh, my partner's my best friend. It's like that you have to be very careful with that actually, because you don't realize how we talk to friends and how we talk to partners and how that line can get blurred when they become your best friend. And you got to realize, like, oh, wait, this is still the person you love. It's like when they fall into,
Right.
oh, they're also my friend category. It's like you might start saying things or joke with them, or it's like, whoa, hold on. Like that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I didn't realize, and but both people,
Yep.
and I didn't realize in like past situations, when it crosses that gap, it's like, well, we still need to maintain the core of what this is here, and we are still companions through love and through all that. But I didn't realize how dangerous that game can be a little bit with
Yeah.
the oh well, now you're in friend territory too. It's like because
Right.
you should be best friends, but I also think like the tough thing too is for example, when you're partners, right? And this is such a hard thing to navigate, is when you are going through an emotional thing and not trying to put that on your partner, but it's like because your partner is not responsible for your happiness.
Mhm.
And I think that like when people hear that, that can upset them, but it's not. It's like you're not responsible for your partner's happiness and they're not responsible for yours. You can help them, find a place to
Mhm.
get there, but it's like that's not your job. And when those things happen and it becomes your job, that's what really starts tearing people apart. But that can also happen through the vessel of that friendship thing, because the friendship thing is almost like, you kind of like will put stuff on your friends or talk to your friends about it, and it's like great, but it's like they can't be your beacon of happiness, and they can't be the reason your life matters and stuff. And I know that blows people's minds, like, but they can't. You're putting in something on someone, especially someone you care about, that is the hardest thing to ever hold. It's like you can't be the supplier of the meaning to my life. Like you can't do that to someone. And that was also something I was thinking about, because I used to do it too. It's like you have to find your own happiness and love for yourself, and that helps you be a better partner to the person you love. It's like the minute you start putting that onto them is the minute it can all start kind of falling apart. And I didn't realize that.
Mhm.
And it's getting older, it's growing up. That's kind of the reality of it. But I
Yeah.
did not really understand that until I got older. And I'm thankful for it, but it was a really, really big wake up call. And And yeah, I just think about that like a lot. Especially when you're experiencing a healthy relationship.
Hmm.
You're like, whoa, you look back at all these, so what, the red flag stuff. You look back at
What
all
about
these
the yellow
things.
flags?
Yeah, the yellow flags. Well,
Oh,
and also I think taking into account, like, you start to learn what you need out of a
Yeah.
relationship. And it's like for me, I'm very big on, like, I need to talk about things.
Hmm.
Like I cannot, like, I am not good at not talking about things. I will eventually just shut off if we don't ever talk about stuff, you know.
I'm like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, oh, for example, like, I'm officially in therapy. It's amazing. I recommend anyone to do it. If you had any reservations, it's actually the dopest thing ever. It's nothing like what you think it's going to be.
that's so funny that you just said that too. It was
What?
actually, I kid you not, if I open my notes
Uh-huh.
and show you, one of the questions I wanted to ask was your guys' opinion on therapy.
Oh, dude, yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, so I just started.
Yeah.
Just started like a few weeks ago. Specifically just because, like, especially with this industry and this life, like, I have this internal fear inside of myself, uh where I've done such amazing things and achieved such
Yeah.
amazing things.
Yeah.
And I've come from a place where, like, that wasn't our lifestyle in this industry and stuff. It's not
Yeah.
something I'm a part of. But if I don't feel like I'm not, we've talked about this a little bit, but if I feel like I'm not achieving things or doing things, I have this fear that it's all just going to be swept from me, and I'm going
Taken.
to have to go back to this like
Yeah.
life that,
Yeah.
and that gives me daily anxiety, like daily stress, and like this.
Okay, me too, Jake. I
this-
was
Well-
walking, pacing around my house
Yeah.
the other day, like for the last 4 days.
Yeah, it's this like boiling.
it's-
it's
no,
this
this-
boiling pit inside of me that and because that's always there, I almost can't enjoy anything that I have succeeded in, because I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, great, but what's the next thing? Because, like, I have to pay for this and I have to cover this, and I like
Yeah.
it's and it's like I can't enjoy it, and that was just starting to consume my entire life and every facet of my life. And it's like, if I'm having a conversation with the one I love, I'm not really there, because it's like still
Okay.
playing in the back of my head, like the monkey going tss, 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 tss,
Yep.
Yeah.
and so I can't
gotta find that
be
balance.
present there. And then it's like I take that frustration, and then if that frustration is also mixed in, like, the love I feel like I'm not receiving when it's there, but I just, like, your perspective gets skewed. It's like, well, I'm not feeling this, and I feel like I'm not getting this, and it's like, what am I doing wrong? That it just becomes this thing that just starts building in you, and then you just start letting it out, and it's and so I was finally
It's radioactive.
Yeah, exactly. I was finally, like, with the help of my lady, obviously, was like, she's like, let's just find you a therapist.
Did you
Like,
just start?
just started. Like, I
Okay.
started like 2 weeks, and immediately. And what's really funny is I'm a huge bookworm and stuff, and, like, I had this deep insecurity because I didn't finish high school because I was working. I feel like I'm talking a ton. Sorry.
It's okay. You can have your moment, Jake.
I
You can highlight it.
so I didn't I didn't finish high school because I was doing this show called Rectify, and we shot 6-7 months out of the year from 15 to 18, right? So, like, trying to be in a school system, trying to do all that was just so difficult. And so, at that point, when it officially wrapped up, because the big argument is like, well, why are you going to school if
Yeah.
you're making money? It was, I had this deep insecurity that, like,
Right.
I wasn't educated in the way I wanted to be educated. Like, I was educated in the world, but I wasn't educated on, like, like, I really couldn't tell you a city in Europe or something like that. Like, geographically, I wasn't the most, like, I just wasn't smart in a lot of the book smart ways, and I felt deeply insecure about it. So and then at the same time, this is when a lot of stuff was going on with the divorce and stuff in my parents' life and everything. And so I wanted to, if I had this idea that if I could understand it, I could control my emotions. I could, if you know what I mean, which isn't really true. It's like, it's not a controllable thing. It's something like emotions happen through you. Like,
Yeah.
they're not, they're this ever fleeting sort of
You gotta
thing.
navigate them.
Yeah, you navigate them. You can't control them. And so it's really interesting is I did a ton of research. Like, I basically looked up all the psychology books and
Well, I was gonna
chunks
say,
through.
what led you to the therapy you're doing now?
Well-
Like, how'd you find them?
Well, basically, through SAG, it's like it's not like BetterHelp, but it's one of those things where if you have a health insurance, typically they have something you can go to and they'll set you
Yeah.
up with a therapist, and that's how I found them. But what was super interesting and really mind opening to me is, and half the reason I didn't do therapy for so long, is I had done all this research. So I was like, oh, I know. So when I would be in arguments or anything, I'm like, well, we're only feeling this because this is happening and this is why we're feeling this. And I remember like one thing that punched me in the gut is, at some point, my loved one was just basically like, it's really great you can explain your feelings, but how about you just feel them for once? And I was like, oh my God, like that rocked me
like,
so,
oh, man.
because it's so true. It's like I thought by like studying all this stuff, it's
yeah.
like great, I understand it now. But then I was like, which is really counterintuitive for an actor. I was like, but I understand it that I shut it off so much that I'm never feeling it.
So then you're actually just rageful inside.
Well, it's like rage
Yeah.
or sad.
Sadness
well,
or
yeah,
depression or
funny enough, anger is basically just an extension of deep sadness.
yes,
Like that's
exactly.
where and so to get back to the therapist thing, basically what was really interesting is that's half the reason I didn't think I needed one. And then it was really interesting because I told her all my like research and stuff like that, and she's just like, well, she's like, it's fascinating. Like you've read, so like you're very well read, and I'm very impressed with like what you know and everything. And but we both had this discussion about emotions and about, she's like, but that doesn't solve it. It's
Right,
it's like, and I know a big thing for me right now is like, one thing we discussed is kind of like the perfectionism and this idea that she told me this amazing thing. There's this thing called cognitive distortion. And it's basically the phrases and stuff we say habitually that we start sinking into ourselves. It's kind of like manifestation. It's like if you say the negative, and it's kind of in line with that. But what I love is she said there's this phrasing called shoulding yourself. It's so it's like, I should be doing this. I should be this. I should be that.
Yep.
And she's like, and that's also an extension of perfectionism, because and also like I'm terrible with taking compliments. I'm so bad with taking compliments. And we were talking about
funny.
it's like, well, it's kind of like a perfectionist thing because
Yeah.
it's like that compliment, even it's not even necessarily like you're egotistical, you think, oh, I'm here. It's just that like what that compliment is not reaching this
No, it's, I was gonna
false
say,
world you have for
some
yourself.
people just don't know how to
take
take it in. It almost feels weird when someone
Well,
compliments you.
Dude.
Also, I think that that's something that I definitely deal with as well.
Yeah.
Because I, like in mine and Brandon's arguments, like I know the right answer, or I know why I'm feeling this way, or I know why you're acting this way. And I've studied people to a T because I've dealt with too many different types of people.
Right.
But then to actually feel it, when I feel it, it's
different.
rage. It's like everyone go away quickly because
Yeah.
there's so much inside, and
Right.
then
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's hard to navigate. So I remember we went to couples therapy
Yeah.
for like, I don't know, like 6 months, 3 months.
We did it for like 6.
Yeah.
6 weeks. And 6 weeks, it was a month, 6 weeks. And it was really eye-opening for me and Brandon because Brandon actually never discussed his feelings.
Sure.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but he discussed what he just would move
Well,
on, you
Sure,
know?
sure.
Before I let you continue,
Yeah.
I was in the group of, I guess what you would call like a group of people that just looked very bad on therapy. You know what
dude.
I mean?
Well, all the
I
men
grew-
on my side and stuff.
Yeah, like
yeah.
we grew up where it's like or I guess I heard so much growing up wherever
Yeah.
I was that it's like if you were in therapy,
You're weak.
like that's a big no-no.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it was like this
So-
sign of like it was always like it's a sign of mental weakness, or if you can't get through it, then it's like you need someone to talk to. It's like you're
Yeah.
just mentally weak or
So,
something. It's like
I never even contemplated the thought of therapy even
Oh,
being an
dude,
option.
I
Yeah.
love
And
it,
then
yeah.
I was like, I was very hesitant in actually doing it with Kirsten. And then
because almost
you know,
it's been framed like if you do it, you've lost,
right.
and it's like, oh well, if we're
Yeah.
going to that, then we've lost.
That's what I was trying to say. Like
Yeah.
if you do therapy, it's like the path to
To the
you're
end.
going on the slow. Exactly.
You're like, oh
Thank you.
no, we
right,
died.
right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then I think in my mind I was kind of scared because I was like, like therapy, like are we getting to the place
If
where
I
it's
accept this,
over?
are we
Like,
accepting
yeah.
the end? Right.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
You got the word out of my mouth.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
But you
But-
can continue.
But
yeah.
Yes, sir.
it was an interesting thing too because I actually, even though I was the one like, let's go to therapy, I actually was the one that said, let's stop because
Sure.
I was scared of the fact that like most of the stuff that was happening was that I was looked at as like everything was wrong.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it was very over emotional for me as a person because I can already read all that's wrong with me. I don't need you to like point
Elaborate.
it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I need is that something's solved in it. And so
Yeah.
the when you were like scrolling back, not scrolling, but like going
Going
back,
back, yeah.
to like what you were saying about your partner not being your happiness. I think it's not about your partner being your happiness, but love requires you to like love yourself first, like you were saying,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
also in a partnership, especially in a marriage, the other person has to know the things that make you feel loved, and that's a
Right.
huge important thing that you can't force somebody. So that's the
Yeah.
hard
Right,
part is
right.
that you're coming from two different places, from two different traditional things,
Two different
from
lifestyles.
two
yeah.
different lifestyles,
Well,
two different ways and viewpoints of like understanding how to love somebody.
Well, the other thing
Yeah.
too is I mean, when we did it was like, I think it was only like last year,
Mhm,
right? It was only
mhm,
last
mhm.
Yeah, I
year.
think
So,
so.
I mean, we had already gone like 6 years together.
Right,
So
right,
I
right,
don't
right.
think it was like more so like, oh, you're coming from all this, you gotta learn this. I think life just caught up with both of us,
Right.
and we had to be reminded how
Right.
to communicate with one another
Yeah.
and how to be with one another
'Cause you're
to
also
continue
changing.
doing
Oh
something.
yeah,
As people.
Exactly.
constantly.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's one of the most.
Daily.
That's the huge.
Right,
That's
exactly.
a huge thing we don't take in. We don't take account for
Yeah.
when you're getting a relationship, especially younger.
Yep.
As younger
Yeah.
people,
You got to re-get
it's-
to know your person.
You're
Exactly,
re-getting
yeah.
to know your person because they are, and you're hoping they're changing. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
big
yeah, of
thing too.
course,
If
you
you're
want- yeah.
you're hoping, like, if you love your partner,
not
you're also
very
hoping they are changing. But it's like with those changes, you
Yeah.
have to like ride with. I've also heard the tough thing about couples therapy specifically. I've heard is that it's a collaborative thing, and I wouldn't know the first thing about couples therapy. Obviously,
It's
because
definitely it's definitely collaborative. It's also a
Yeah.
little scary. I'm not gonna
Well,
lie.
that's what I'm saying because I've heard it can be that.
Yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
this sort of like, well, one person might feel like more of the core of the problem than the other and stuff like it's.
Well,
It's
also you have to think you are attached, and so
Yes,
here's
yeah.
the thing: it's not like someone gives you homework and you go do it.
Yes.
Your homework actually requires both parties to
Yeah,
focus
yeah.
in.
It's always a
take
team
time,
project.
and so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
gets more stuff. But that's
Yeah.
the point of the team project. It's actually making those things and feelings come out of you in a way so that they're exposed again, and you have to
Yeah.
deal with them on the table.
Yeah.
Right.
The part is actually learning how to deal with it differently than you naturally have made it a habit to.
Right.
And so like in therapy, it's funny because when I tried even my self therapy, they'd get my name wrong.
Right.
They'd call me super weird stuff.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
would-
yeah.
someone was
That's-
texting while I was talking.
That's
There can
funny.
be some
We-
bad, I've
we
heard
had-
terrible
we
scenarios.
had some
Yeah.
interesting scenarios before we found the person we
But I
wanted.
will
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that was like trying to put me away from actually dealing with my emotions. And so
Right.
that's why I think it is actually a good thing to have therapy. I'm
Yeah.
not against it. It's just knowing how to do it. Like be open.
You just reminded me why I was like so stuck on doing the last one we did. The last one we did was grateful. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
very
yeah.
blessed because it ultimately helped Kirsten and I. That 6 weeks that we did it went a long way for us.
Yeah.
And we were able to adapt new things in our life.
See, I think it shows strength
But
in a relationship too.
Ex-
I think
exact- to be
I'm
able
all for it.
to
yeah.
be willing to walk into that together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was funny though because I think I almost didn't do the one that was great for us.
Oh yeah.
Because we tried 2 other people and
Right.
we had a trial. So before you officially start with them, you have like a trial session with them, like you kind of feel your comfortability, whatever. And the first 2 were like, I don't know how therapy's supposed to be at this time. So I'm just like,
I hope it's not this.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this just feels off. This
Right,
just
right,
feels off.
right.
And I knew if Kirsten was not about it,
Then yeah.
I'm for sure not
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, there's one thing. If I'm not about it and Kirsten feels great, she'll get me, she'll convince me, I'll feel better about it.
Right.
But if Kirsten's like even worse than I am, forget about it.
Yeah.
But it was funny because by those 2 trials, I went to Kirsten and I was like, should we really be doing this? Because that was weird. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I will say too, like going back to even just the dating thing, like how you start something is usually going to be not the highlight, but the height of your emotional state. Like
Right.
like of where you're gonna bring your best self before your worst self comes out.
Mhm.
And so as a woman, I do believe that like at the beginning, a man's pursuit of you is really important because a man's going to know exactly what they want when they want it at that moment. Like they're going to know if they want that to last or not. A
Yeah.
girl, we can learn to love things and
Right,
people. Like
right,
we
right.
can actually grow to develop more affection for you. And that's why in a relationship, the longer that you're in it, a woman actually gives you more of herself and a
Right.
man gives
to
you
like
less
peel off, right?
because
Right.
they've done their work to get you. And
Yeah,
so
right.
I think that, and this is just for protection of most women that I see get like hurt a lot, and for men, because men get confused with this. Like, if women are pursuing you all the time,
Right.
you're kind of like giving yourself up to so many people at times. You're actually disassociating yourself, and you're not giving yourself the chance or the empowerment to pursue somebody.
Right.
And I think that it's really important for a man to pursue and say, hey, I want to take you out. Hey, I want you to say no so I can do it again. Because it gives that it's like, I don't know, battlefields, your video games. It's like you've accomplished something.
Yeah, well,
you know?
that goes hand in hand with the keeping the spark alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
wanting to date each other.
Yeah, and that's why when a man pursues his woman, even throughout you're supposed to pursue throughout your entire relationship, a woman will nurture and feed and give to the man so that they can go out and do it again.
Sure.
And I think that, not that this has to be role based, but that's actually the natural instinct of a woman and a man. And so, like, at first, I'm going to give you nothing because I want to see your potential. You know what I mean? Like, what are you willing to give for this?
Yeah.
So that
I experienced that.
because I'm going to give you my life.
Yeah.
You did
Yeah,
experience
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But like, you know, with your woman,
Yeah.
she's an amazing woman. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think in theory that is the approach you're hoping for when you're pursuing someone.
Always.
But
yeah.
I think it also, the dating world can be also very toxic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's like,
100%.
it's like, you know, it's one thing. It's like, I want to pursue you because I want to give you all of me. It's also, I want you to pursue me while all these other people pursue me because I just kind of want the fun of the pursuit. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where the game comes in.
But that's
and-
why discernment is key.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you're just pursuing someone because you like the way they look or the way they make you feel, you're not looking at longevity of a relationship.
Right.
You have to understand your own boundaries, your own foundations. If you don't know those things, don't pursue somebody at all.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're actually looking for, and you're
Right.
just trying to not be lonely, then you're gonna find yourself over and over again in the same cycles and tormented.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on. And that's why, even when, to make Brandon know that I appreciate him, when we started dating, I said, most of the time, yes, when you ask me, I would like you to be the one to do it. But if I ask you out, it's because I want to treat you. I want to
Right.
make sure that you feel loved and appreciated. And so, like, I want to make you a dinner tonight or take you on a date tonight. Like, that you are worth that as well. Because I've seen the way that you have given yourself to push into like a different way for our life. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful way. So obviously it takes two to tango. But like, when you find a person that's willing to do that, and like, not just as like, oh, you look pretty and you're funny, or you look hot and you're funny or whatever, or you make me feel good, but like they motivate you. They not correct you. What's the word? Like they challenge you. They challenge you. They push you out of your comfort zone.
Right.
It's like, oh, I could work with this because I don't like it all the time. But like, for some weird reason, like,
I don't like it all the time.
I'm growing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm evolving.
Right.
That's what you want in a relationship. So for all y'all looking out for relationships out there, you know, that's like number one. Like, you gotta be willing to grow yourself, willing to be uncomfortable, and know your foundations and boundaries. If you don't, you will be walked all over.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, that's why, that's why,
It's
like,
true.
at the top of it, you know, I was asking kind of about where the compromises are and the balancing with each other. Cause I think another huge thing is, like, the quote unquote breadwinner and stuff like that in this day and age, and like how you know, especially in the industry, you know, and I feel like in a lot of industries, but in the creative industries, if your partner is also in a creative endeavors, you know, it's like someone might have a great year and someone might have a bad year. And so, and how do you balance that, and how do you balance being okay with like, I'm going to be the stay-at-home partner. I'm not doing the work right now, but you're doing the work, and vice versa. Because I feel like that can also just completely, like, it's crazy how quick money can tear apart a relationship.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I
yeah.
actually
And that's the one
think
thing I always
that's-
like internally. I'm always trying to like stay away from, like, and
Yeah.
not in the sense of like, let's ignore it, but it's like, it's also that is just such a hard,
Isn't
like,
that like the number one reason for divorce?
is it, I mean, I'd believe it.
I could be wrong, but I think it's one or two.
It'd probably
Yeah.
be that and cheating. I'd say would probably be like the
Yeah.
two biggest. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. I feel like I mean, we've always been pretty good about it. We've I feel like the biggest thing is having a discussion before you get to a place.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Don't just let it
Yeah,
show
yeah.
up and you're
Yeah,
like,
I was
yeah.
very, very real when I said, "Hey, I am not a stay-at-home mom right now. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
not my
yeah.
thing. I'm traveling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm making money. I want kids, okay?
Yeah.
But I grew up with my dad and my mom home every day
Yeah.
and working every day, both of them.
Yeah.
So for me, that was just something important to me. Doesn't mean that's the all be all. Actually,
Yeah.
raising kids, stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, that is the hardest job on the
Oh
planet.
no,
Sure,
I,
yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I mean, we're still having that conversation because I'm
Right.
like,
We're
well, I'm not a
both-
stay-at-home dad either.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I
I'm
mean,
always moving.
well, I
you know
also
what I mean?
think- I also
We
think-
are, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is at the beginning,
Right.
I was just saying don't look for somebody who's just doing that because they have
Right,
these things.
right.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, when we have kids, that discussion is going to be different because we both have to be stay-at-home parents
Yeah.
and we both have to be out parents. And so, like, I think it's a constant navigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good question. What, Jake, what would be your take, let's say on like having a nanny?
Having a nanny. Oh, okay. So, damn, I don't know. I mean, I'm very lucky because I
Yeah.
feel like you know, it also depends on what you're born into. Or what the kid would be born into family wise. Because I
Yeah.
know we'd probably be lucky enough that like her family would probably
Well, her
want to
family's
take
here,
care of
right?
the kid. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's the one
So
thing.
like,
Yeah.
well, I'll say that in a scenario where it's like neither family lives where you guys
would
live.
I do
So
a nanny?
for me, obviously it was great. I grew up with my family. So if I
Right,
didn't have
right,
my
right, right,
parents,
right.
I had my grandparents. Or I had my aunt, my uncle, stuff like that. My whole
man.
family was there. But here, we don't have any family actually. And we know a lot of friends that don't have family here.
Well, here's
Growing up, my parents just had themselves too.
Yeah, here's the thing. I know from just what I've read and studied on that a kid needs someone in their life from birth to moving forward that believes in them, nurtures them, and loves them, right?
Well, I feel the first few months of birth is important for the parents to be present.
100%. But I guess what I'm getting at in the long run
Yeah.
is I would want to be a part of my kid's life as much as I possibly
Right.
could.
Yeah.
With that being said, you know, with depending on the work going back and forth and everything, I don't judge anyone for having a nanny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would like to try to be a part of my kid's life as much as possible and
Yeah.
not always have my nanny with my kid. Like
It's a
that
good
that
answer.
would be but I
That's-
don't see it as a problem.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people that the nanny like stayed in their house and
Yeah.
so the nanny was like almost like an aunt or something. So, you know, but there's also it's like I've known people where it's like they were entirely raised by their nanny and they
The
don't
most-
really know their
Yeah.
The most
parents.
It's a good
significant
answer
years,
though, 'cause
though,
I agree.
Yeah.
are from born to 7.
Yeah.
And that's because their brain, all of those things that they learn from 0 to 7
Right.
is what you will take for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it
It's
makes complete sense, and then it's also, you know, your child is going to be everything that you are and everything that you aren't. So
Facts.
when you're raising it, you're going to see it's literally just a mirror of all the things you don't like about yourself if they
Mhm.
pick up on habits, and then it's also them kind of if they choose to do it is going against what maybe you would have done, and there's beauty in that.
Mhm.
Because it's like you kind of heal your inner child by watching your child do these things
it,
that
yeah.
you know you'd not rather have done, but it's like, oh man, I had a great childhood. I have wonderful parents, but it's also like, you know, you're with your parents at their best and their worst. So, you know, and my parents also, what I think this generation is getting right is a lot of the parents were way too young to be having kids. Like, I truthfully think they're just like it's like their kids having kids. And
Yeah.
typically
Yeah.
that's going to, you know, I mean, young mothers, young parents, still, it's like you're raising kids, you're doing your best. It's like I'm not, you know, crapping on anyone but it's just like, it shows that the older you are, the probably more suited you are to raise a
Mhm.
child in a
Yeah.
healthier way.
Well,
Like
you're
Right,
more
right.
established.
More
You're
established. Well,
in
they-
yourself and in your
they
business.
did this study, man, I wish I could remember the book, but they did this study that was basically like they took mothers that had their first kid when they were super young, and then had their second kid, right, when they're like in their 20s or whatever, and then they took a mother that was like a first time mother having their kid at 30, and it's not even just like on the child, it's like her mental health
It's
was
different.
stronger than the mother that had already been through a few kids. It's like you'd think she would have been able to handle it, but it was almost still harder for the younger mother than it was, because it's like she didn't get to grow properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it's beautiful raising your kid no matter what. I don't have a kid. I wouldn't be like the first person to say jack crap about raising a kid.
None of us have kids right now,
Yeah.
so we're just
Yeah, we're just
opinionating
openly talking.
our opinions.
Wholeheartedly
Yes.
opinionating here,
Yeah.
but it's just like I think the difference in this generation is like everyone's having kids older. Like this generation, I really see are going to like all start having their kids older and stuff. And it's like also having a kid right now is like this is the most expensive time to have a kid, the hardest time to have a kid. It's like
Also, you
we were
can do
talking
it
about
so
this
many
last
different
night.
ways. Like you could have somebody
Yeah.
else birth your child now,
dude,
or like some other, or
How
you can
crazy is
incubate
that?
it in like a little bed thing, and it will grow itself.
Yeah.
Like it's super weird, but like in so many different ways. But I
Yeah.
think that like that's the thing. We were watching this. Me and my girlfriends were watching this film last night that was actually really amazing.
Right.
It's called The Unsung Hero, and we're just watching, and like every pregnancy scene seems just so scary. So we're all just saying like, nah, we ain't ready for that. Yeah, and we're all in our 30s.
Yeah.
And we're all just sitting there like, I still feel 17 inside.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Well, I also like, I just want to, I don't want to, I think my biggest fear is putting any of things I don't like about myself on my child. And I still feel like I have so much to figure out, like, which is why the therapy and why all that stuff and like, and learning, like, I want to have a system or some sort of system in place that when that time comes, I'm not still dealing with all this and then putting it on my kid. Like, that's like, that's one of my biggest fears is I don't want to screw my kid up.
Can
Too
I be
bad,
honest
you
with
know?
you? Every single parent will screw their kid up a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, I
but
know,
it's
I know.
actually on purpose because here's the thing. You then it's actually a good thing because
That was a great way you said
it
that.
is. It's on
Yeah,
purpose
yeah.
because think about it.
Everyone
How many
screws up.
times do
They're
you
like,
get
I
to
left
develop?
you for 5 years to grow you up.
Yeah,
did it on
right. To grow you up.
purpose.
Yeah.
No, but like think of the
That's funny.
development of a person getting to be able to overcome those things.
Right,
It
right.
all turns to good regardless. And here's the thing: if you're doing your best, you're putting your all, and you're doing what you can. I mean, there's obviously some circumstances where it's like, okay, you obviously aren't doing very well with your child. That's a very different conversation. But I'm just saying, like, for a person that truly wants the best for their kid,
Yeah.
there's always going to be something your kid's going to disagree with.
Yeah.
It's this inevitable.
Yeah. You know, did you guys ever have someone in your family that was like your gut, your inner instincts before you kind of grew up and understood what that meant?
No.
So
No.
to give you an
Tell me.
example,
yeah,
to give you an
maybe,
example,
yeah.
You know, I love my grandmother to death,
Oh,
but it was
she's a G.
it was
Love you, Grandma.
it was so funny growing up, especially in like elementary school was really when it was happening. And I would always bring around like a bunch of kids from the class or I'd hang out and she'd go up to me and she's like, that kid has, don't be friends with him. That kid has bad intentions. That kid has bad intentions. And she's like, this is a great person. Be friends with this guy. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm friends with everybody. She's like, don't be friends with
She
these
was
guys.
like your moral compass.
Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
One.
Like
Exactly.
you're
That's what I was
little.
trying to
What
say,
is
yeah.
Jiminy Cricket?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah,
it is?
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
conscious.
She
Yeah.
would always
Conscious.
kind of like
Yeah.
direct me with the people I was growing up with in elementary school. It
You know
was
what?
so
I
funny.
guess
And
my grandma was kind of.
she was right. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. All the people she told me were great friends till this day. You know, I have a great friendship with all of them. Bless all their hearts.
Yeah.
But the ones that she told me were like bad, I dropped like instantly.
Oh man.
And I mean, I hope they're all doing well too, but
I was very
no-
thankful
no
when she liked
communicated.
me. I was like, whew, I made it.
Oh, a lot of
She's just silent for like the first day.
Yeah,
around
she's like,
you.
mm-mm.
She's just processing.
So my grandmother, my aunt, a couple other people, like right when they met Kirsten, they like pulled me aside and they're like, one was like, she's the one. She's the one. Another one said, don't F this up.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
a good
yeah.
one. And someone else said that I really like Kirsten. She could be a great member of the family.
It made me cry in a
aw.
good way. Like, cause that's like what you want. Like
Yeah,
me
yeah.
and Brandon got really blessed in having like great in-laws too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and great family. Like
I had a harder path though. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I had a harder path.
We won't go there
for
at
all
this
for all the beautiful aspects of it.
I know that we did an episode on our story, but you know, you guys heard. You also were a little bit.
Oh my god,
You
that's
were
funny.
growing in yourself.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually that's
I mean,
that's hilarious.
sure.
I mean, I've always been great with parents, so you know.
Okay,
yeah, didn't really have any trouble myself. I gotta be
You're
straight
like, I've
here.
been amazing the whole time.
Yeah, no, I've never never had any problems. So
That's so
yeah.
funny.
No, something I wanted to touch on real quick though, because you were talking about like your kid needs to go through those struggles and stuff. The one thing I think about though is like, I know I am who I am because of the trials I've been through. I'm aware of that, you know, and
Yes.
I wouldn't go back and change the stuff that happened to me. But at the same time, I'm always conflicted because I'm like, I'm thankful that I can get over stuff. I'm thankful that, you know, a lot of people's opinions don't really matter to me. Like, I'm thankful that it's pretty hard to like mess with me,
shake
me and stuff. But I'm also like, if I could avoid my kid having to go through it, would I? You know, it's like just because it made me who I am doesn't mean I want them to go through it.
Yeah, but
you
you
know,
still can.
and that's but I know that, but I'm saying like that's a struggle I have all the time. It's like we have this older generation that cries to the new generation that like you guys need to toughen up. You haven't been X through X and Y. It's like yeah, and it's like and that's great. Congrats, like you're strong. You're strong. Congrats. But like when you were getting beat by your dad, or when those bullies were beating the crap out of you, or when people were calling you names, it's like congrats, it's made you strong. But like, don't sit here and tell me you wouldn't have wished in that moment that someone came and helped you.
Yeah,
And like that's the stuff that gets difficult to me because sometimes I'm like, you know, and there's an argument. It's like, well, no, it's good that someone didn't help them. I was like, but what if someone did? Like, what if someone did, and why would that be that bad?
Oh no.
And that's the stuff that messes me.
I think that's good too, but just for a thing, imagine that what I'm saying is all the good stuff outweigh the bad in those areas. Not all situations. There are some situations that is we won't go there at this moment. But if you live in a home that's like pretty healthy, okay, with like little things that you know you can walk out, then ultimately the good of like not the good, the great qualities of who you are in they outweigh the other things because you're going to instill more passion and more great characteristics in your child the more that you choose to do it in yourself. So like think about your parents. You chose to do like not better, but like different things. So you're growing and you're growing in yours. So you're going to push that into your kids. And that's why you get the chance to break off generational curses or break off generational habits or whatever you want to call it. You have that ability. And so then your child then has the ability.
Right.
So it's in the hands of your kid.
Yeah. I guess that's just like always been such a conflict with me because I used to hold that so like you know, like I got through it. I got
heavy.
But then sometimes I was like, you know, like I got through it, but
I wish I didn't have to go through it.
sometimes I'm like, nah, I could have probably lived without that. You know, but I just think about that. Like, I just think about that for like my the future kids and stuff like that. And I just, like, it's interesting. Like, what does it take to harden someone to like, what does it take? Like, how far can you go and how far can you avoid? You know what I mean? It's like,
Honestly,
that's a very interesting
per
thing.
person.
Like, what's the threshold? Yeah.
When our kids are growing up, though, it's gonna be like a whole different world. And I'm still like thinking about. I'm trying to imagine this world of what it's gonna be because you got to think like we're living more in a
self-driving cars.
We're living more in a tech world. So it's like
AI's talking
probably like
conferences.
10 years from now. None of us have kids yet. Maybe 15 years from now when they're getting into school, whatever it is. You know, who knows? Maybe that system can be all robotic. I mean, you got to think. So
they're gonna be equipped for what they need.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but not too long ago, I mean, you know, Apple, right? They canceled their entire car project. They spent like billions on it. They just said, boom, cancel.
Oh, they canceled that?
They canceled the project.
Wow.
And they announced that they're putting full focus now into robotics, home robotics.
Wow.
So they're
gonna be like Disney Channel's Smart House all over
No,
again.
you got to think. I feel like between Apple and Tesla, we're gonna have a lot of humanoid robots. Tesla's already basically like put it out there. Prototype's already there.
Oh man.
God knows what Apple's going to create.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we're really going to have these robots 15, 20 years down the line,
Dude,
just fully operational.
I don't know. Whatever I can do to wrap up all of this, because
To wrap it all up.
well,
into
this
the
is
world.
actually I've actually really enjoyed this conversation. I'm
too.
glad
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
pretty deep about it. But to wrap it all up, I guess like regardless of the world, I just want to be the best husband and the best dad that I can be. Also, again, that's the full circle therapy and stuff like that. I just want to like be better in general. And I think also we have this misconception that if we read about it, if we can understand, if we can like be knowledgeable about it, specifically emotional and mental stuff, then we understand it. And it's like, this is something we still haven't even mapped consciousness. We don't know how to recreate it. We don't know really why emotions are what they are. We really don't. All the science, all the study there, it's like there's a lot we just still don't know. Almost like it's almost equivalent to the ocean when it comes to like what we understand about it. So if people that have dedicated their entire life to it understand it that way, then I think we need to broaden our perspective on mental state and how fundamental it is to a more fulfilled life in general. If like if I left anybody with anything, I'm feeling very introspective today. But
well,
yeah,
and that goes circle into even our first episode of community. It takes
Yeah.
a village
Right.
to raise your children,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you never want to do it alone. I think that you are like just us in general wanting
It's
to be
important.
the best parents
right.
is as a top 1% thing that if you guys can go into being a parent with just wanting to be the best and willing to learn and willing to apologize and willing to walk it out where your child can see that,
Yeah.
then you're literally thriving
Yeah.
because you're not alone in that. And like you get to take sources from the energies of the world
Yeah.
and just like, say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Please help me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we love you guys.
Yeah,
I
we
agree.
love you. Thanks for
Thanks
tuning
for
in to this
tuning in,
very
guys.
serious
Yes.
chat today.
We got very deep today, but I think it was needed.
I think it
And
was needed.
It
man.
was.
I'm glad we
Yeah,
had the
I-
conversation.
I didn't have bathroom jokes to me today.
It's okay.
It's feeling in my feels, but yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
But if you guys have any more questions on what we spoke about today, don't be afraid to give us a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Let us
Yeah.
know what you guys are thinking. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does a good relationship mean to you?
yeah,
I
that's
want
the
to
question.
know what does a good relationship mean to
Yes.
you guys?
Teach
Yeah.
us what a good relationship
yeah.
is.
Throw
Throw
it
it
in.
at
Throw it
us.
in your
Yeah.
opinions.
All right.
Okay.
All right,
Bye,
guys.
busy
Till next week.
babies. Love you.